Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. We're only about a month away from the downtown Knoxville Boat Show, March 3rd through the 6th at the Convention Center right here in Knoxville. As always, Joe Special and his crew will be right there on hand with tremendous savings for you, a great selection of boats. When you talk about the boat industry right now, they're still catching up. There's still supply chain issues. So you need to get a deal done now if you want a boat for this spring or summer. Let me tell you, Madisonville Marine can do the best work for you. They get you the best deal on the best types of boats in the market because they carry more lines of boats than anybody else in the market. It's one-stop shopping, and that shop happens to be coming to you next month at the downtown Knoxville Boat Show. Madisonville Marine, find out about them right now at madmarine.com. Okay, I had some rapid-fire questions. We'll handle it a little bit differently because one of the questions was, if Miami comes after Alex Golesh, how much are you willing to pay to keep him? Don't have to worry about it because Josh Gaddis from Michigan will now be going to Miami. That came about 20 minutes before our show today, so hour and a half ago. So you don't have to worry about that. But in terms of your Tennessee fan right now, I think one of the big pluses this offseason has been you've maintained the entire staff. Mm-hmm. You know, knock on wood that something could change, but it's late in the game for anybody to leave at this point. You got to like the fact that after one good year, Josh Heupel's been able to keep everybody on staff.
They're the only school in the SEC that's been able to do that, and I think there have been more than 40 coaching changes within the SEC. I think it's particularly important when you're building a program and you're in year two. I think that's a big deal. Look, we saw Jeremy Pruitt and others, they hire staff and then they get rid of people right away. Well, obviously you made a mistake on who you brought onto your staff. But Tennessee maintaining that staff and still trying to work to implement their systems and so forth, I think that's really more important in year two of a program than it would be, say, in year 10.
Let's talk about retaining coaches and stability right now. I got another question for you. Florida just had, I think they are now on their fifth coach in X amount of years, same as Tennessee. At another disappointing year, they've had to hire another up-and-comer while everybody else went out and grabbed big-name guys. They went with a guy who's never been in a Power 5 school before. Auburn, that is a mess with Brian Harsin. Coaches leaving, they're hiring guys who then turn around and leave immediately. It is a mess at Auburn. Tennessee, you're the only school that's kept all your coaches. You had a good first year. So I ask you, rank these 1 to 3, and you still got the NCAA cloud hanging overhead, and you still have the Tennessee history, which makes you wonder when a shoe's going to drop. But rank those schools 1 to 3 in terms of 1 being the most stable right now, 3 being the shakiest ground. Tennessee, Florida, Auburn.
I think I would go Tennessee 1. It's close to me between Tennessee and Florida because I always I always tell people year 1 is the only time in college football you can almost guarantee stability. So Billy Napier's not going anywhere right now at Florida, but I think Josh Heupel, given the situation, he's going to get a pretty long rope at Tennessee no matter how it goes from here. And obviously year 1, no coaching turnover, so I think there's a lot of reasons to say it's more stable.
So Tennessee 1,
Tennessee
Florida
1,
2.
Florida 2, Auburn a distant third. Like
Yeah.
Auburn's 79th out of 3.
It's incredible. It's a real mess down there. All right. Where are you guys ranking them?
Auburn's trying to grab all its belongings out of the cracks and run is what's happening there. So Auburn's last. I would argue Tennessee right now because you also have the Josh Heupel, Danny White connection that has been in place for years, which is now in Knoxville. Florida, let's see. I think they're really happy about what he's trying to do to start out with Billy Napier, but that's a program that's had all kinds of issues that have popped up here and again. So I would go Tennessee, Florida, Auburn.
I would too. That would be my same order. And the interesting thing with Florida, I saw this the other day. I don't know where they ended up, but this was going to be the first time that Florida, under the ESPN rankings, would be outside of the top 20. I don't know if they made the top 20 in recruiting. But, I think that Tennessee's stability, and you got Heupel in his second year versus Napier in his first. That's an advantage. But then at Auburn, they've had 20 players that have transferred, not that recently. They've had 5 coaches that have left the staff since then. Boy, they're in turmoil. Who knows if Brian Harsin's going to survive this?
Yeah, it's a mess.
79th out of 3. Yeah, I like that.
That's a good one. And then the last thing I was just going to throw out there, Cade Mays told Seth Emerson of The Athletic that he had no regrets about leaving Georgia for Tennessee. Well, look, he had to know Georgia. He knew he was going to a worse program. Mm-hmm. He knew he was going to play with his brother. So part of me believes that. But not all of me believes that. There has to be some level of regret, doesn't there, that I could have stayed and won a big ring and been a part of a champion, theoretically, if all things be the same. But do you think he had any regrets hidden, tucked away down there somewhere? Or no? Take him at his word, and I'm a bad guy for denying that.
No, I would say maybe. I mean, I think it's only human nature to say, I could have won a championship there. But I would say in hindsight, though, if there's any regret, it might not be that he didn't pick Tennessee in the first place, but it might be that it had to go the way it did. Because I think he only didn't go to Tennessee the first time because he really didn't like the situation with Butch Jones, and then they went through a coaching change, and there wasn't enough time for Jeremy Pruitt to change his mind. So I think, if anything, he got what he wanted in the end, and the chance to play with his brother at home was a big deal to him.
And his dad would still have a pinky
Yeah.
if he hadn't had to do the Georgia thing?
I wasn't going there, but
Okay. Look it up for those that don't know how he lost a finger. All right, go ahead.
I'm guessing if he could go back, he would edit how the 4 years played out. So I would say it's that. But, I mean, he had to know when he left Georgia that the program was in that good a shape. Now, maybe, he showed up at Tennessee. The expectations were actually kind of rising at the time. Then it fell back off and it rose back up. So I'm sure he would like some kind of do-over along the way, but also knew what Tennessee needed still and where Georgia was.
It'd be kind of hard for me not to regret leaving a place and then they won the national championship. So I think there's got to be a little bit of concern about, yes, I could have had a ring, I could have been on that team, I could have played in all these games and maybe even improved my draft stock. But so yeah, I think there's got to be a little bit, right?
Draft stock's a big one. I mean, what would his draft status be if he'd stayed at Georgia and worked with them? I mean,
and stayed healthy.
Yeah, stayed healthy. We'll never know, but
that's a good point. Let's ask him again in May what he's thinking. Hey, if he doesn't get drafted higher than the 5th round or so, he might have a different thought about whether he regrets it.
All right, very good. The world is freaking out that some NFL teams may have tried to lose games on purpose. I'm not freaking out because who didn't know that? We'll discuss that next on the Sports Source. Come back.